4 impactful years. A public affairs forum on the Jonathan administration organized by Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. This is a fact and figures forum to measure the growth in the various sectors of Nigeria's economy under the Jonathan administration from 2011 till date.
In this election that is coming, people are coming to say, we are going to do this, we are going to do this. Even what they say they want to do, they are not sure. And we don't even believe that they have the capacity or antecedent to prove that they can do it. But in Goodluck Jonathan's case, it is, I have done this, I have done that, I have done this, and they are millions. So it's a no contest.
Featuring the Ministry of Education.
So the government, in its effort, constructed over 125 Sangaya schools that are popularly known as Almajiri schools in different parts of the country.
Transportation.
The Western Line from Lagos to Kano, a distance of 1,124 kilometers, has been fully rehabilitated, and passenger services and haulage of goods along that line were flagged off in December 2012, of course, within the period under review in this presentation.
The question we are answering is, where was Nigeria before President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan came on board in 2011, and where is Nigeria now? The Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Ibrahim Shekarau, started his presentation by stressing that the human capital development was at the core of the transformation agenda of the Jonathan administration. He believes that education takes a front seat in the success of developing the nation's human capital.
The transformation agenda of Mr. President as far as education is concerned are basically in 2 fundamental areas. That is, increasing access and improving quality. There are 4 components of these 2 major sectors, both increasing access and improving quality. It includes increase in enrollment at all levels, be it primary level, secondary level, which we today call as a basic and post-basic levels, and the tertiary. And in each of these levels, the provision of the infrastructure, because if you enroll more, you have to have the infrastructure to accommodate the number you are enrolling. The 4th and the last and the most important is the enhancement of the efficiency, the resourcefulness and competence of the teachers and other educational personnel in the system. If you have the number increased in terms of enrollment, you have the infrastructure put in place in terms of classrooms, lecture halls, lecture theaters, you have the instructional materials provided. If you don't have the teacher, whether you call him teacher, lecturer, instructors, you are talking of the same thing. The real live person who comes to impart the knowledge. If you don't have the teacher, then you are not running the school.
In his presentation, he impressed upon everyone to measure the massive change and growth within the educational sector since the Jonathan administration took over.
So the government, in its effort, constructed over 125 Sangaya schools that are popularly known as Almajiri schools in different parts of the country, all in an attempt to ensure the enrollment has increased. bringing those that have been out of school into school. In spite of the fact that basic and post-basic education lies largely in the hands of the local government and the state government, the federal government, through the action of Mr. President, decided to intervene to bring such children out of school to be in school. I'm sure these children that have been enrolled into these over 125 different schools scattered in different parts of Nigeria, in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, they will be part of the changing factor as far as our growth and development is concerned. The government also initiated, through the relevant ministries agency, to harmonize basic education curriculum for implementation side by side with the Islamia school education curriculum in these newly introduced Al-Majid schools, which is also a step forward. Instead of allowing them in their wretched environments, without any organization, without any properly detailed curriculum, the government, through the transformation program, initiated the review of the curriculum. And this has since gone a long way in improving and attracting many more into school. As for girls' education program, the government initiated and constructed 35 special girls' boarding schools across the country in states of Adamawa, Yobe, Zamfara, Nasarawa, Ebonyi, Ekiti, Delta, and Akwa Ibom states. These 35 special girls' boarding schools is to increase the access and enrollment of girls into school and to attract particularly our young girls from the rural areas that have not had the opportunity of attending school in the neighborhood, or at least the parents will feel safe in allowing their girls into the boarding schools. Constructed and furnished 105 blocks of 2 or 3 and 4 classrooms each, constructed 2 examination halls, 4 community libraries, 4 generator house, 9 computer centers, and 15 VIP toilets in 15 states of the Federation, across the Federation, as part of federal government's intervention.
From the presentation of the minister, it is quite clear that the president will settle for nothing less than a holistic process of educating the Nigerian citizenry.
So in an effort by Mr. President's transformation program to bring back the nation on track on ensuring that vocational education is incorporated into our system, the private sector was encouraged as well to establish as many vocational enterprise institutions as possible. Within the last 4 years of Mr. President, as many as 135 such innovation and vocational enterprises institutions were licensed through the Federal Ministry of Education. As many as 17,000 teachers were deployed under the federal government teachers scheme to public primary schools in 34 states. I'm sure you don't have to be a mathematics teacher like myself to know what difference 17,000 will make into any pool. Even if you have never been to school, and you're told 17,000 teachers recruited, deployed, and posted to primary schools across 34 states. That will tell you how much impact the system will have. Again, the government disbursed 6 billion within the last 4 years for teachers' capacity building in 36 states. The federal government supported programs in our effort to make sure that the teachers' quality is improved. Because if you don't improve the quality of the teacher, there is no way our educational systems will be of any better quality. The government paid out 563 million as counterpart funding for scholarship award to foreign students. The federal government rolled out and distributed and printed 24 million English language books, 23 million mathematics textbooks, 34 million basic science and technology activity books for primary 1, 2, and 3, and distributed all of this nationwide. All this was done by the federal government as part of the effort to achieve Mr. President's transformation agenda in improving the quality of delivery of knowledge in our schools. So to improve upon this, the federal government, part of the transformation agenda to improve quality, did 13 million library resource materials were acquired and provided for junior secondary schools across the Federation. 13 million libraries. I'm sure you can imagine. In addition, 25 science teachers from across the Federation were sponsored for training in Canada to enhance ability to train others. That is like train the trainer, kind of. 25 science teachers were identified across the Federation, and the federal government footed the bill to ensure that they were given the best of training to come back and train all of our science teachers at both the basic and post-basic secondary education. The government as well sponsored the training and sensitization of over 36,000 school heads at both primary and secondary school levels. 36,000. As a former school principal and school head, I know what it means when you talk of improving the quality of those managing our schools. Because if you get it wrong in who are managing the schools, no matter the kind of quality of teachers you have, the poor management of the school will frustrate them, and they will not be able to work. And they will mismanage the resources and the facilities in school as well. In Mr. President's concern to ensure that all courses in our universities are properly accredited, the review and amendment of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, which used to be Education Trust Fund, before the coming of Goodluck onto the seat, we used to have the Education Trust Fund. And the Education Trust Fund was meant to address the problem of basic, post-basic, and tertiary. You can imagine the number of primary schools, secondary schools, and tertiary education that we have all over the place. And attempting to solve all of their problems, you end up not solving the problem of any. Because you are going to have the distribution of the funds in bits and pieces, because every state will be arguing their primary school benefit, their secondary school benefit, and tertiary. He came with a very progressive change and said, this tax form that is being generated from the taxpayers, let it be concentrated upon the tertiary aspect. The states and the local governments, with the periodic intervention by the federal government, will continue to support it. Hence, he initiated the amendment of the law of education fund to tertiary education trust fund. And I'm sure those of you who are close to people of the university you will find that the impact the tertiary education fund has made or started to make and will definitely make subsequently will be so tremendous to the system and will improve the quality of our system. 109 billion naira granted in 5 phases to universities, polytechnics and colleges of education across the Federation to facilitate development as centers of excellence. This is different from the needs assessment funds. This was special grant which was phased out within the last 4 years, 109 billion naira rolled out, courtesy of Mr. President, to universities, polytechnics and colleges of education across the Federation. School curriculum was equally reviewed to make it more in line with the current national development challenges. This is also a very major effort towards improving the quality, because any nation that does not regularly review the curriculum of its educational system will become dormant and other nations will fly to leave it behind. As an intervention in the tertiary education system, 15 billion naira grant to all 51 federal and state polytechnics. Federal and state again. 15 billion. Special grant. What a generous president. For provision of modern equipment and upgrading of existing laboratories. All federal and state polytechnics, at least 51 of them put together, 15 billion was doled out to improve existing laboratories. Again, talking of our federal unity schools, most of whom I'm sure here have your children in them, each of the 104 federal unity schools were granted $250,000 to rehabilitate their science and technical laboratories. Because before this intervention, all the laboratories have decayed, they don't have the facilities, and you ask the students to sit for WAEC and NECO exam as practicals in practicals that never were they trained. So government took note of this to improve quality. I'm sure subsequent results in our science subjects, you will see the improvement in the years to come because of this serious intervention. $250,000 to rehabilitate science laboratories is quite a huge intervention. Those of us who know what the laboratories looked like before now. Again, on the teacher side, the president approved the sponsorship of as many as 5,867 lecturers of federal and state tertiary institutions for postgraduate studies, out of which 1,375 were sponsored overseas. Almost a third of these were sponsored overseas. So far, since the program started, we have on record 624 that have completed their master's and PhD programs. So you can imagine, even if this is the only thing Mr. President added to the educational system, 624 PhD fresh from best universities into our tertiary institutions. And this includes state institutions. You can imagine the quality that will be rolling out over the years.
The Ministry of Transportation at the Public Affairs Forum.
In 1986, the federal government commenced the construction of 326 km standard gauge rail line phase 1 from Itape to Ajakuta to Wari. So that is to tell you that our rail system is about 116 years old. However, for over 2 decades, the rail system became comatose up until 2009, when the government commenced implementation of a 25-year strategic vision to revive the sector. The federal government, therefore, in its determination to revive and indeed modernize the rail system, in February 2011, the federal government commenced the construction of the 187.5 kilometers Abuja to Kaduna standard gauge rail line. What have we done so far or achieved in the rehabilitation drive? We are rehabilitating over 90% of the existing navigate rail lines throughout the country. The rehabilitation is the first segment of the 25